Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of Terra Station, watching the last Zephyrian trade vessel disappear into the void. The sleek silver ship carried with it the final message that would change the course of galactic history forever. Earth had just declared the mighty galactic hegemony banned from all Terran space. The decision hadn't come lightly. For over 200 years, humanity had been nothing more than a backwater species to the hegemony. When first contact occurred in 2157, Earth's leaders had been thrilled to join the galactic community. They signed treaties, opened trade routes, and welcomed alien visitors with open arms. What they didn't realize was that they had just signed humanity's death warrant as a free species. Dr. Marcus Webb, the chief xenobiologist aboard Terra Station, approached Admiral Chen with a grim expression. His weathered face told the story of decades spent studying alien species, most of which looked down upon humans as primitive mammals barely worthy of acknowledgement. The hegemony's response came faster than expected, Dr. Webb said, handing Chen a datapad. Ambassador Veltar is demanding an immediate audience with the Earth Council. He's threatening severe consequences if we don't reverse our decision within 72 hours. Chen read the message, her jaw tightening with each word. The Zephyrian ambassador's tone was exactly what she had expected: arrogant, dismissive, and threatening. It was the same tone the hegemony had used for 2 centuries while slowly stripping away humanity's rights and freedoms. The breaking point had come 6 months ago on the mining colony of New Colorado. The hegemony had declared the planet's rare earth deposits strategically necessary for galactic security. Without any consultation with Earth's government, they had moved in their forces and displaced 12,000 human colonists. When Earth protested, they were told that lesser species had no right to hoard resources that could benefit the greater galactic community. That was when President Elena Rodriguez made the decision that would echo through the stars. Earth would no longer bow to alien overlords. Humanity would stand on its own, regardless of the consequences. "How many ships do we have in the system?" Chen asked, her eyes still focused on the stars beyond the viewport. 43 vessels of the Earth Defense Force, Dr. Webb replied. "But Admiral, you know as well as I do that the hegemony has over 10,000 ships in their nearest fleet. They could wipe us out without breaking a sweat." Chen turned to face him, her expression resolute. "Numbers aren't everything, Marcus. We've learned that lesson before." She was referring to the Battle of Luna 3 years earlier. A small group of human pirates had somehow managed to outmaneuver and defeat a hegemony patrol squadron using tactics the aliens had never seen before. The incident had been dismissed by hegemony command as a fluke, but Chen and other military leaders had studied the battle recordings extensively. The truth was that humans fought differently than any other species in the galaxy. While the hegemony relied on overwhelming force and standardized battle formations, humans were unpredictable. They adapted quickly, took calculated risks, and never gave up even when facing impossible odds. These weren't qualities the aliens understood or respected, but they were qualities that could win wars. Captain Rodriguez burst into the observation lounge, his uniform still bearing the marks of a hasty departure from Earth. "Admiral, I've just arrived with the latest orders from President Rodriguez. The Council has voted unanimously. We're implementing Operation Defiance immediately." Dr. Webb's face went pale. Operation Defiance was the classified plan that military strategists had been developing for the past year. It was humanity's ultimate contingency plan, a way to fight back against the hegemony using Earth's most dangerous advantage: human unpredictability. "Are you certain about this?" Chen asked Captain Rodriguez. "Once we begin, there's no going back. The hegemony will never forgive us." "The president was clear," Rodriguez replied. "Humanity has spent 200 years apologizing for existing. It's time to show the galaxy what we're really capable of." Chen nodded and activated the station's communication system. Her voice echoed through every corridor of Terra Station as she addressed the crew. "All personnel, this is Admiral Chen. As of this moment, Earth is officially at war with the galactic hegemony. We are no longer subjects or junior partners. We are free humans, and we will defend that freedom with our lives." The reaction was immediate and powerful. Crew members throughout the station began cheering, their voices mixing together in a sound that the hegemony had never heard from any species. The sound of people choosing freedom over safety. In the engineering section, Lieutenant Commander James Park was already implementing the first phase of Operation Defiance. The massive fusion reactors that powered Terra Station were being reconfigured for something the hegemony had never expected: warfare. Human engineers had discovered that their reactor technology, while considered primitive by alien standards, could be weaponized in ways that conventional hegemony shields couldn't handle. Meanwhile, in the communication center, teams of specialists were broadcasting a message to every human settlement in the galaxy. The message was simple but revolutionary. Come home. Earth was calling its children back for the fight of their lives. The response was overwhelming. From mining colonies on the edge of hegemony space to research stations in neutral zones, humans began abandoning their posts and heading home. They came in cargo ships, stolen hegemony vessels, and anything else that could achieve faster-than-light travel. Each ship that arrived brought more people willing to fight for humanity's freedom. Dr. Webb monitored the alien communication networks, watching as news of Earth's declaration spread through hegemony space. The reaction from alien species was a mixture of shock, amusement, and disbelief. Most couldn't understand why a primitive species would dare challenge an empire that controlled half the galaxy. "They're calling us crazy, Doctor," Webb reported to Admiral Chen. "The Altarians think we've suffered some kind of mass psychological breakdown. The Regelians are placing bets on how quickly the hegemony will crush us." Chen smiled grimly. "Let them underestimate us. It's worked in our favor before." She was thinking of humanity's history on Earth, countless examples of smaller forces defeating larger ones through superior tactics, determination, and the willingness to do whatever it took to win. The hegemony had never faced an enemy like humanity because no other species in the galaxy shared humanity's particular combination of intelligence, adaptability, and stubborn refusal to surrender. As the hours passed, more details of the hegemony's response began to emerge. Fleet Admiral Zexkoth, the hegemony's supreme military commander, was personally leading a massive task force toward Earth. Over 5,000 ships were en route, including some of the most powerful vessels in the alien fleet. "They're not taking any chances," Captain Rodriguez observed as he studied the intelligence reports. "Zexkoth has never lost a battle. They're bringing enough firepower to sterilize the entire solar system." Chen studied the tactical displays showing the approaching hegemony fleet. The alien ships were massive, each one capable of destroying Earth's largest cities with a single shot. By all conventional military wisdom, humanity was about to be annihilated. But Admiral Chen had spent her entire career studying conventional military wisdom, and she had learned something important. Conventional wisdom often failed when faced with an unconventional enemy. "Begin Phase 2 of Operation Defiance," she ordered. "Signal all Earth Defense Force vessels to implement the Harrison Protocol." The Harrison Protocol was named after Commander Lisa Harrison, a human tactical genius who had died during the Luna battle. Before her death, she had developed a series of combat maneuvers that took advantage of humanity's natural ability to think in 3 dimensions while under extreme stress. The maneuvers were so complex that most alien species couldn't execute them even with computer assistance. Throughout the solar system, human ships began moving in patterns that would have seemed random to alien observers. They weren't following any known military formation or tactical doctrine. Instead, they were preparing to fight the way humans had always fought, by using their enemies' expectations against them. "Doctor." Webb received a priority transmission from the Deep Space Monitoring Station on Pluto. "Admiral, we're detecting massive energy signatures beyond the heliopause. The hegemony fleet will be here in less than 18 hours. Chen nodded calmly. 18 hours to prepare for the most important battle in human history. 18 hours to prove that humanity deserved its place among the stars as equals, not subjects. Send a message to all human forces, she commanded. Tomorrow, we show the galaxy what happens when you corner a species that refuses to be caged. Humanity has been sleeping for 200 years. It's time to wake up. The message went out across the solar system, reaching every human ship, station, and settlement. In response, the crews prepared their weapons, checked their systems, and said their prayers to whatever gods they believed in. They all knew that they were about to attempt something that would either free humanity forever or result in their complete extinction. As night fell over Terra Station, Admiral Chen stood once again at the observation deck. The stars looked the same as they had 12 hours ago, but everything had changed. Somewhere out there in the darkness, the largest military force in galactic history was approaching Earth with the intention of making humanity an example for any other species that might dare to challenge hegemony authority. But Chen wasn't afraid. For the first time in 2 centuries, humanity was united with a single purpose. They were no longer divided by nations, religions, or politics. They were simply human beings fighting for the right to exist as free people. The war that would determine humanity's fate was about to begin. The hegemony fleet emerged from hyperspace like a plague of metal locusts, their ships blotting out the stars. Fleet Admiral Zexkoth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the massive dreadnought Inevitable Conquest, surveying the pathetic human defenses through his compound eyes. In his 300 years of military service, he had crushed over 40 rebellions. The humans would be number 41. Status report. Zexkoth commanded in the clicking language of his species, the Keth Mori. 5,200 vessels in formation, Admiral, his tactical officer responded. Human forces number approximately 60 ships total. We outgun them by a factor of nearly 90 to 1. Zexkoth's mandibles clicked in what his species considered laughter. These mammals are even more foolish than I anticipated. Signal the human fleet. Give them one final chance to surrender before we demonstrate the futility of their resistance. The communication was transmitted to Terra Station, where Admiral Chen received it with the same calm expression she had worn for the past 18 hours. The alien admiral's message was predictably arrogant. Surrender immediately or face complete annihilation. Patch me through to the hegemony flagship, Chen ordered. Moments later, Fleet Admiral Zexkoth's imposing figure appeared on the main screen. His exoskeletal features and multiple eyes had once intimidated entire species into submission. Chen looked at him without flinching. I am Admiral Chen of the Earth Defense Force, she said clearly. You have entered Terran space without permission and in violation of our recent declaration of sovereignty. Turn your ships around and leave immediately, or face the consequences. Zexkoth's compound eyes widened in what could only be described as disbelief. You dare threaten me, mammal? I have conquered civilizations that were building starships while your species was still discovering fire. Surrender now, and your death will be quick. Respectfully declined, Chen replied. Terra Station out. The communication ended, leaving Zexkoth staring at a blank screen. In his centuries of experience, no species had ever refused his final ultimatum. The human's confidence was either evidence of insanity or something far more dangerous. Across the solar system, human ships began moving in the seemingly random patterns of the Harrison Protocol. To alien observers, their movements appeared chaotic and undisciplined. The hegemony fleet maintained their perfect formation as they advanced toward Earth, confident that their superior numbers and firepower would make quick work of the human resistance. Lieutenant Commander Park watched the approaching enemy fleet from his position in Terra Station's engineering section. The fusion reactors had been modified according to the most classified part of Operation Defiance, a discovery that human scientists had made 3 years ago but kept secret from the rest of the galaxy. The discovery involved the fundamental nature of hegemony shield technology. Alien defensive systems were designed to deflect energy weapons and absorb kinetic impacts. But they had one critical weakness that only human scientists had identified. The shields operated on a specific frequency that could be disrupted by precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulses. All ships. This is Terra Station. Admiral Chen's voice echoed through the communication network. Operation Defiance is now in effect. Show them what humanity is made of. The first phase of the human counterattack began not with massive explosions or dramatic fleet maneuvers, but with something the hegemony had never expected: complete electronic warfare superiority. Captain Sarah Torres, commanding the destroyer New Angeles, led the first wave of human ships directly toward the center of the hegemony formation. To the aliens, it looked like a suicidal charge by an inexperienced commander. In reality, it was the opening move of the most sophisticated battle plan in human history. As the New Angeles approached the alien line, her modified communications array began broadcasting a series of electromagnetic pulses designed specifically to interfere with hegemony shield harmonics. The effect was immediate and devastating. Across the alien fleet, shield generators began fluctuating wildly. Warning alarms echoed through hegemony ships as their defensive systems experienced cascade failures that their engineers had never seen before. Within minutes, over half the alien fleet found themselves without their primary means of protection. "What is happening?" Zexkoth demanded from his bridge. "How are they disrupting our shields?" His chief engineer, a mantis-like Rigelian, consulted his instruments with growing panic. "Admiral, their electromagnetic signatures are operating on frequencies we've never encountered. Our shields can't compensate fast enough." Zexkoth felt something he hadn't experienced in decades: uncertainty. The humans had somehow neutralized his fleet's primary advantage using technology that shouldn't exist. But this was just the beginning of humanity's surprises. Phase 2 of Operation Defiance began when human ships throughout the solar system suddenly accelerated to speeds that should have been impossible for vessels of their size. The secret was another human innovation that the hegemony had dismissed as primitive gravity manipulation technology. While alien species had developed faster than light travel, they had never mastered the art of using gravitational fields for tactical maneuvering during combat. Humans had spent the past 50 years perfecting the technology in secret, creating ships that could change direction instantaneously and accelerate far beyond what their size would suggest. The destroyer Beijing executed a maneuver that violated every known law of physics according to hegemony science. The ship approached a group of alien cruisers at tremendous speed, then used her gravity manipulators to effectively fall around them in a spiral pattern while maintaining constant fire. The alien ships, designed for long-range bombardment, couldn't rotate fast enough to track a target moving in such an impossible trajectory. Captain Rodriguez, now commanding the cruiser Valiant Spirit, led his squadron in an attack that would have been suicidal for any other species. The human ships flew directly into the formation of hegemony dreadnoughts, using their gravity drives to dance between the massive alien vessels like fighters rather than capital ships. "They're inside our minimum firing range," one of Zexkoth's officers reported in panic. "Our main guns can't depress low enough to target them." The admiral watched in growing horror as human ships tore through his fleet's formation, exploiting weaknesses that hegemony tacticians had never considered. The alien ships had been designed to fight other aliens, species that followed predictable tactical doctrines and respected the conventional rules of space warfare. Humans followed no such rules. Dr. Webb, monitoring the battle from Terra Station, was amazed by what he was witnessing. The human fleet, outnumbered nearly 100 to 1, was not only holding its own but actually gaining the upper hand. The key was humanity's approach to three-dimensional thinking. Most alien species, despite their advanced technology, thought in essentially two-dimensional terms when it came to space combat. They formed neat lines, advanced in predictable patterns, and expected their enemies to do the same. Humans had evolved as persistence hunters and climbers, giving them an intuitive understanding of three-dimensional space that most aliens lacked. The cruiser Wellington demonstrated this advantage by performing a maneuver that no alien commander would have attempted. Captain Lisa Kim ordered her ship to dive below the galactic plane, then use her gravity drives to swing around and attack the hegemony fleet from an angle they had left completely undefended. "Impossible," Zexkoth muttered as he watched human ships appear from directions his tactical computers hadn't even considered. No species fights like this. The third phase of Operation Defiance was the most audacious of all. Admiral Chen had ordered the implementation of Protocol Omega, a tactic so risky that it had never been tested in actual combat. Terra Station itself began moving. The massive space station, officially classified as immobile, had been secretly equipped with the largest gravity drive ever constructed by human engineers. As the hegemony fleet focused on the darting human ships around them, they failed to notice that the station was slowly positioning itself for a devastating surprise attack. Admiral, the hegemony sensor operator, reported with a trembling voice, "Terra Station is moving. Its energy signature is off the charts." Zexkoth turned his attention to the human space station just as it reached optimal firing position. The station's modified fusion reactors had been configured to create a weapon that existed nowhere else in the galaxy, a directed gravity wave capable of disrupting the molecular structure of any ship caught in its path. The gravity wave erupted from Terra Station like an invisible tsunami, washing over a formation of hegemony destroyers. The alien ships simply came apart, their hulls unable to withstand gravitational forces that alternately compressed and stretched their molecular bonds beyond the breaking point. "This is not possible," Zexkoth said quietly, staring at the empty space where his destroyers had been moments before. "No species has this level of gravitational control." Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled through the communication system as he led another impossible assault on the alien line. "Hegemony Fleet, this is the Terran Defense Force. You have exactly 10 minutes to withdraw from our space before we demonstrate the full extent of human military capability." The threat wasn't empty. The human fleet had been holding back, using only a fraction of their modified weapons and experimental technology. The Battle of Luna had taught them the importance of keeping some capabilities secret, even during major engagements. Zexkoth found himself facing a decision he had never contemplated in 3 centuries of military service: retreat in the face of an allegedly inferior enemy. His fleet had lost over 800 ships in less than 2 hours of combat, while the humans had lost fewer than a dozen vessels. "Admiral," his tactical officer said quietly, "we're receiving reports from throughout the galaxy. Human ships are attacking our installations everywhere. This isn't just a local rebellion, it's a coordinated uprising." The truth was even more shocking than the tactical officer realized. Humans throughout hegemony space had been preparing for this day for months. When Admiral Chen gave the signal to begin Operation Defiance, human sleeper cells activated on hundreds of worlds. Mining equipment was converted to weapons, cargo ships became bombers, and human civilians revealed themselves to be trained soldiers. The hegemony had never faced an enemy that could coordinate across interstellar distances without using their communication networks. Humans had developed quantum entanglement communication technology in secret, allowing instantaneous coordination across the entire galaxy. On the mining world of Kepler 442b, former colonist Commander Elena Vasquez led a group of displaced humans in an assault on the Hegemony Administrative Center. Using jury-rigged mining lasers and improvised explosives, they captured the planetary command center and began broadcasting human declaration of independence to every world in the sector. Similar uprisings were occurring throughout hegemony space as humans revealed the true extent of their preparations. The aliens had always dismissed humanity as disorganized and chaotic, failing to understand that what they saw as weaknesses were actually strengths. Humans could organize without centralized authority, adapt without formal training, and fight without hope of victory. Fleet Admiral Zexkoth realized that he was not facing a simple rebellion but a revolution that threatened the very foundation of hegemony power. The humans had turned every supposed weakness into an advantage and every disadvantage into a weapon. "Signal the fleet," he commanded, his voice hollow with defeat. "We are withdrawing beyond the heliopause. Send a priority message to High Command. The humans are not what we believed them to be." As the battered hegemony fleet retreated toward the edge of the solar system, Admiral Chen stood on Terra Station's observation deck and watched the most powerful military force in the galaxy flee from human space. The impossible had become reality. Humanity had stood up to galactic tyranny and won. But Chen knew this was just the beginning. The real war was about to start. 3 months after the Battle of Terra, the galaxy was a very different place. The news of humanity's impossible victory had spread to every corner of hegemony space, carried by refugees, traders, and the hegemony's own traumatized survivors. For the first time in over a millennium, the great galactic empire faced a crisis they couldn't solve with overwhelming force. President Elena Rodriguez stood before the United Earth Assembly, addressing representatives from every human colony that had participated in the uprising. The chamber, carved from the lunar surface beneath Armstrong City, had never hosted such a momentous gathering. Today, they would decide humanity's future among the stars. Fellow humans, President Rodriguez began, her voice carrying the weight of history. We have achieved something that no species in galactic history has accomplished. We have forced the hegemony to acknowledge our sovereignty. But victory brings new challenges. Dr. Marcus Webb, now serving as Earth's first Minister of Xenobiological Affairs, provided the Assembly with intelligence reports that painted a complex picture of the galaxy's current state. The hegemony was fracturing as species that had been suppressed for centuries began their own independence movements. The Altarians have declared their home system autonomous, Dr. Webb reported. The Centauri Republic has demanded representation in hegemony decision-making. Even the Regelians, who have served the hegemony faithfully for 800 years, are questioning their allegiance. Admiral Chen, promoted to Supreme Commander of Terran Defense Forces, outlined the military situation. Our intelligence networks indicate that at least 17 species have begun developing their own versions of our gravitational manipulation technology. The hegemony's technological superiority is crumbling faster than their political control. The human victory had triggered a galactic renaissance of scientific innovation. Species that had stagnated under hegemony rule were suddenly racing to develop new technologies, inspired by humanity's demonstration that superior tactics could overcome superior numbers. Captain Torres, now commanding the newly constructed battleship Terra's Pride, had been leading diplomatic missions to various alien worlds. Her reports revealed the complex reactions that different species had to humanity's emergence. The Zephyrians want to establish formal trade agreements, Torres explained to the Assembly. They're offering access to their quantum communication networks in exchange for our gravity drive technology. The Vegan Confederacy has proposed a mutual defense pact, but not all alien reactions were positive. Intelligence reports indicated that several species were actively working to develop countermeasures against human technology. The Kaith Mori, Admiral Zexkoth's people, had sworn blood vengeance against humanity and were rebuilding their fleets with specifically anti-human weapons. Commander Park, now Earth's chief technology officer, addressed these concerns with characteristic human ingenuity. Let them try to counter our current capabilities, he said with a smile. While they're developing countermeasures for yesterday's technology, we're already working on tomorrow's innovations. The truth was that humanity's greatest advantage wasn't any single technology or tactic, it was their approach to problem solving. While alien species tended to perfect existing solutions, humans constantly sought new approaches. This difference in thinking had allowed them to develop revolutionary technologies while the hegemony remained trapped in centuries-old paradigms. Dr. Webb presented the Assembly with perhaps the most significant development of all, first contact with the legendary Forgotten Ones. These were ancient species that had retreated from galactic affairs millennia ago, disgusted by the hegemony's rise to power. Humanity's victory had convinced several of them to emerge from their self-imposed isolation. The Ethereal Collective has requested permission to establish an embassy on Earth, Dr. Webb announced, causing gasps throughout the Assembly. They claim to possess technology that predates the hegemony by millions of years. They want to share it with us. The Ethereals were energy beings who had transcended physical existence long before any current galactic species had developed space travel. Their decision to ally with humanity sent shockwaves through established galactic civilization. If the Ancient Ones were supporting humanity, it meant the balance of power was shifting in ways that hadn't been seen for geological ages. Admiral Chen provided updates on military developments throughout human space. The success of Operation Defiance had inspired human military engineers to push the boundaries of what was possible even further. Construction of our new fleet is ahead of schedule, Chen reported. The Olympus-class battleships incorporate every lesson we learned from the hegemony engagement. More importantly, we've developed technologies that even we don't fully understand yet. She was referring to humanity's collaboration with the ethereal collective. The energy beings had shared knowledge of dimensional manipulation that opened entirely new fields of physics. Human scientists, with their characteristic refusal to accept limitations, had combined this ancient knowledge with their own innovations to create weapons and defenses that bordered on the magical. The assembly was also briefed on the economic revolution that humanity's independence had triggered. With access to previously forbidden markets and technologies, Earth's economy had grown by over 300% in just 3 months. Human goods, particularly their gravity manipulation devices and quantum computers, were in tremendous demand throughout the galaxy. Captain Rodriguez, Elena's daughter and now commander of the diplomatic corps, described the changing political landscape. 17 species have formally recognized Earth's sovereignty, she reported. 12 more have signed non-aggression pacts. Most significantly, the hegemony itself has been forced to acknowledge our territorial claims. This was perhaps the most remarkable development of all. The mighty galactic hegemony, which had never negotiated with any species as equals, had been forced to send ambassadors to Earth. The irony wasn't lost on anyone present. The same empire that had once dictated terms to humanity was now asking for permission to enter human space. The hegemony's representative, a nervous Zephyrian diplomat named Kolrith, had arrived the previous week with an unprecedented offer. The empire was willing to formally recognize human independence and establish normalized diplomatic relations. In exchange, they wanted access to human gravity technology and a guarantee that humanity would not assist other rebellious species. President Rodriguez had rejected the offer immediately. "We will not trade our principles for their recognition," she had declared. "Any species seeking freedom will find allies among humanity." This decision had profound implications. Earth was positioning itself not just as an independent nation, but as the leader of a new galactic order based on freedom rather than dominance. Smaller species throughout the galaxy were looking to humanity for inspiration and protection. Dr. Webb outlined the challenges this leadership role would bring. "We're receiving requests for assistance from over 40 different species," he reported. "Some want military aid against hegemony forces. Others need technological assistance to achieve independence. A few are asking us to mediate territorial disputes that have existed for centuries." The assembly faced a momentous decision. They could choose the safer path of focusing solely on human interests, building their strength while avoiding entanglement in galactic politics. Or they could embrace their role as champions of freedom and accept the risks that came with challenging an empire that still controlled most of the galaxy. Admiral Chen spoke to the military implications of each choice. "If we isolate ourselves, we give the hegemony time to adapt and develop countermeasures. They're already building new fleets specifically designed to fight human ships. Isolation means facing them alone when they're ready for us." Commander Park addressed the technological aspects. "Our current advantages come from thinking differently than other species. If we work with diverse alien cultures, we'll continue developing revolutionary technologies. Isolation would eventually lead to technological stagnation." Captain Torres provided the diplomatic perspective. "The galaxy is watching us. If we abandon other species to hegemony oppression, we prove that humans are just another self-interested race. But if we stand for universal freedom, we become something new, a galactic force for liberation rather than conquest." The debate that followed would be remembered as one of the most important discussions in human history. Representatives argued passionately for both sides, understanding that their decision would determine not just humanity's future, but the fate of countless species throughout the galaxy. In the end, the vote was surprisingly decisive. The United Earth Assembly voted 847 to 23 to establish the Terran Liberation Coalition. an alliance of free species committed to ending hegemony, domination, and establishing a new galactic order based on mutual respect and voluntary cooperation. President Rodriguez signed the charter with a pen made from metal recovered from the wreckage of hegemony ships at Terra. Today, humanity officially accepts its role as the guardian of freedom in our galaxy, she declared. We will not rest until every species has the right to determine its own destiny. The signing ceremony was broadcast throughout the galaxy using the Human Quantum Communication Network. On thousands of worlds, oppressed peoples heard the message that they were no longer alone. Humanity, the species that had once been dismissed as primitive mammals, was now offering to stand with anyone willing to fight for their freedom. The hegemony's response was swift and predictable. Fleet Admiral Zexkoth, his career ruined by his defeat at Terra, was replaced by Grand Admiral Thexnavi, a ruthless Keth Mori known for her brutality in suppressing rebellions. She immediately announced that the hegemony would treat any species supporting the Terran Liberation Coalition as enemies of galactic peace. But the galaxy had changed. The old order of unquestioned hegemony dominance was crumbling, replaced by something unprecedented. A coalition of free species led by a race that had learned to turn every disadvantage into a strength. As Admiral Chen stood once again on Terra Station's observation deck, she watched human and alien ships working together to fortify the solar system's defenses. Ethereal energy beings shared space with Altarian crystalline entities. Vegan plant creatures worked alongside human engineers, and former hegemony slaves trained with Earth's finest soldiers. The war was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. But for the first time in galactic history, the outcome wasn't predetermined. Humanity had proven that superior technology and overwhelming numbers weren't enough to suppress the desire for freedom. Now, they would prove that a united galaxy of free species could stand against any empire, no matter how ancient or powerful. The stars that had once witnessed only hegemony expansion now watched the birth of something entirely new, a galactic civilization where strength served justice rather than tyranny. And at its heart was a small blue world whose people had always believed that freedom was worth any price. Earth had declared the Galactic Empire banned from Terran space. Now, they were about to ban tyranny from the galaxy itself.